So, are we robots? Creatures of habit do behave like they're programmed a certain way, try and deviate from the norm, find ourselves in a battle royale for the supremacy of our minds. I learned this principle recently when, during one of my travels, I chanced doing something I had said I would never do or had little interest in doing. I signed up for a horseback riding excursion. The part of my brain that's usually in the way of progress chimed in, reminding me of what I'm supposed to not like and why. As the trolley approached the beach, I spotted the horses nearby in an outdoor stable. I wasn't scared or anything, but part of me was still shaking its head. I mean, I've gone to war in uniform, worked as a contractor doing security in 2 combat zones, getting bad guys trying to kill us, blowing up buildings, high stress stuff. So getting on a horse was supposed to be what? I actually enjoyed the adrenaline pump for the years I subjected my body and mind to that lifestyle of living in and out of war zones. That's how I made my living for a long time. But I had reservations now about getting on a horse. I was soon to find out. The plan was a nice and easy ride on beach, followed by a ride into the ocean with the horses. It sounded interesting. The excursion was booked early, so it's not like there's no interest in this type of thing. I was just trying to figure out what I was doing there and how I was going to get out of it. Of course, part of me went on and pressed on and continued on with my activity, so I did not pull out. But I was still thinking about it. In the end, I told myself, hey, I spent the money, I'm getting on that horse. Part of me laughed loudly. It's your ass. And so following all the instructive phases of the excursion and the division of groups of people, they put you, half go first, the other half goes the second time. It was time to get on a horse. There was a whole parade of horses. They called their names. Each person lined up and was matched with a horse. My horse's name was Express. He was a male. He did not seem really enthused about meeting me. I was a little bit taken aback. I mean, he was a cute horse. I like horses. They're beautiful. It was a strange sensation, just climbing up on top of it. The minute I got on my horse, my mind said, oh shit, this is unnatural. I could feel the horse's spine shifting under me to the saddle. Very strange. But no stranger than okay. I mean, here's what I get off. I was like, my leg's still, one foot still on the platform, the other one, can I get myself off the horse? But before long, there was one of the trainers grabbed my horse by a rope and then let me away from the platform. So, well, there it goes. So much for pulling out of this crazy idea. These are not the platforms that you see for winners, like the ones you see at the Olympics. You climb up there and you're just showing your medal and you're just crying because you put all that hard work, you have no life, and now this is the pinnacle of your efforts. This is to make sure every single person gets on top of this animal without causing major problems. I was led a few feet away, and then we were waiting for the rest of the riders, and my horse just sat there. Frankly, so did I. I held on to the reins. I got strapped on just fine. I was nice and secure, the stirrups. I'm on the saddle. I'm on the horse. And the horse walks over to the fence, and he just kind of parked himself there. I was like, okay, let's go. Horse is not going. I'm not going. It's not like I haven't watched enough Westerns to figure out how horses are driven. I can drive a car all day. This horse was not moving. It's still shifting on my saddle. So the trainer grabbed my horse by a rope, he tied it to it, and then led him behind me. So basically I was being dragged by this guy head of the line, and then the lady behind me he kept telling her, just kick him a little bit. Okay, kick him a little bit more. And then finally her horse, I could hear him coming up behind me. I'm like, okay, this is embarrassing. I came this far to ride a horse and I can't even get myself to actually get the moving parts of moving a horse. So I was dragged along on the very, very beautiful scenery, and I was held on by my rope, and the horse, followed along because it's been conditioned to do that. So it's not like I was a great rider or I had great skill. It was my very first time. So after the dry land ride, we got ready for the water ride. Now, that's when my heart started pumping, like, okay, am I going to get back on the same horse? Because Express didn't seem to be liking me too much. But this time it was a different horse. He was beautiful, just dark brown and shiny, and I just wanted to pet him and just stand there like, no, lady, get on the horse. I hate to pet the horses. So we followed the same process, getting on the horses, got on the platforms. I slid onto it. The saddle was already wet. It's very cushy. It's like a cushion. It's not heavy, and there are no stirrups. And you ride a horse in the water with your legs cramped up, kind of like you're squatting down, but you pull them up because it scares the horses, takes them out of balance, is what was said to me. So there was a lot of the inductors and the abductors being used. If you do work out at the gym, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I had to engage those core muscles. I'm not in my best shape at present. It happens. And it had already proven to be a very vigorous activity, just getting on top of a horse. You just can't just sit on it. You actually have to be part of it. And I'll get to that at my point in a moment. The usual hardware was missing, it's just lighter in the water. So we went along the same procedure. We just kind of led, each trainer, dragged each one of our horses, went with us riding on top and led us to the beach. And then we gave us some instructions. We entered the water, kind of a single file, but soon that turned into a total gaggle of horses and riders. Before long, we're splashing, and from walking to splashing to the horses swimming. And that was actually it was even a good surreal experience. The sensation was, I cannot describe it, but actually, the moving parts were at work here. My brain, my body, the horse's body, and his brain. Where I just wasn't really going along for the ride to see things happen. Here, I was actually fully engaged. We got into the cool waters, and the chaos that formed behind me, somebody screeched with delight or terror. I don't know which one, but I just know that the horses broke out into a massive, let's head out of the water in big hurry. And I had the horses bumping into me, and my horse is like, okay, I need to take charge of this. And I steered mine, and I kicked it a little bit, and he just found an opening, and everybody was bumping into each other, basically. We were crashing horses into each other. And, there were gentle crashes. I was not concerned that my leg would be pinned. And, some worst case scenario, we get hurt badly and on my vacation, that kind of nonsensical thinking. And for a few moments, as we headed to the shore, I was not only smiling, but I was just breathing in the air. I could hear the horse beside me that was just doing, what horses do, that. And I don't do really well. Sound effects. Pretty much like that. And I'm laughing. And I'm just breathing heavily, and my heart is pounding. And I don't want it to end. And I'm rushing, and the next thing, we were back on the beach. And I kind of felt sad. I was being detached from the horse very quickly. The ride's over. They move you over. Hey, okay, can you slide over? I did. Get off the horsey. And sadly, they kind of make you slide off like a jellyfish. I had gone kayaking not even an hour and a half earlier that morning, and it was a total disaster. I was not really thrilled with my kayaking experience. So I was pretty much sore top to bottom when I got on the horses. And it's pretty funny now, but at the time I was kind of not sure if I was going to be able to stay on the horse. But you find from within, like, I got to see it through. I'm sure you've been through kind of weird situations where you kind of like, you can't get out, but you have to push through. So in this case, the horse and the body, his body has its own intelligence, just like our bodies have their own intelligence. We don't operate in a vacuum, yet we behave many times in ways where we have conditioned ourselves to believe that the way we are, like, oh, that's just the way Johnny is. Everybody knows a person named Johnny. Not picking in Johnny's here, but everybody knows a person. Oh, that's just the way she is. Yes. Conditioning from within, from everybody we meet, parents, teachers, someone influenced, and the brain soaked it all in and said, you know what, this is a good operating system. This is how we're gonna operate it from here on out. It doesn't matter if it's gonna drive you crazy or turn your life upside down. This is the programming. So in thinking about the comparison of riding a horse and actually becoming the horse, one with the horse, to be exact, it was humbling. It was humbling in a very, very strange but joyful way, because it was a matter of thinking, knowing, and taking the actionable steps to get where I wanted. Deep down, I didn't want riding on a horse that was swimming in the ocean. I did not want that to end. That feeling, it was so short. It was probably no more than a couple of minutes worth of chaos, and then suddenly it's working, and it's working, and it's still working, and then you're back on shore, and they tell you, okay, time to take it off. You pay your money. This is your thrill. And you want more of that. Just like our bad behaviors, we get rewarded by a praise. Here, go get, when you put on 20 pounds, go get ice cream. Totally incongruent with what we want to do. This was in total congruence with what I wanted. I wanted to pursue joy. And I feel it now just recalling the whole thing. The stupidity of people panicking, not following instructions. The whole day was amazing. It really was. The kayaking was nice. It was just a little bit, I had issues with my anatomy. I'm shorter, I got shorter legs, and kayaks, let's just say is not an optimal design for me. So I had a lot of body tension going into the horseback riding, and so I already had vigorous exercise in the morning, and then being on a horse. So living is the lesson I walked away with was you have to take action, from the thinking to the decision to do something, to take your body into executing the idea or the dream or the thought. This is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. So it was purely and simply a collaboration, human and beast. The horse is obviously more conditioned to do things that horses do than humans. The horse does not deny liking or does not care to try not to be a horse, while humans we're always struggling. Why are we here? Why do we do the things we do? Well, this is the lesson. We have to remember that we are unlimited beings, and we're just being confined to a body. It does not mean that we cannot exercise our mental power to bring about the changes and the good things that are in our lives to enjoy life. So I miss riding on a horse. I want to do it again, but it's that feeling of joy that every time you wake up in the morning and you have to think, decide, and take action And this is how we attain. This is a way to attain joy, but it requires engagement. And I use that word. It means you have to do the work. You can't just sit on the saddle and wait for the horsey to move. Horsey does not want to move. So we exist in a state of autopilot, and we don't have to, when we retrain our minds, to do like the horse. You steer and the horse follows. The horse takes you to where you want to go. Yes, the horse sometimes will want to say, no, I don't want to go. Then you have to mitigate those factors. Same thing with our own consciousness. Our bodies, if it were up to our bodies with its own intelligence, without the mind, it would just be, I don't have to give you a list of things we could do that are terrible. So think about all the stuff you do without thinking. Driving our cars, dialing a number without having to say it out loud, driving tired after a long shift. I've worked shifts good 20 years, about half of my life, rotating shifts, gotten home half asleep. I went on a trip to Arkansas to visit with some friends a few years back. I drove through the Smokies. It was like 100 miles through the Smokies on a rainstorm the entire time until I rolled into Nashville, and then the rain stopped. And I was asleep most of it because I woke up at 3 a.m. to leave from Virginia. And I was only going to stop once I rolled into Nashville. I was going to sleep there about less than 8 hours and then hit the road again for my last leg of my Arkansas adventure. That was about 1,000 miles. Had I not given myself that break, and I still don't know. I made it through the Smokies, raining the entire time. I missed most of the scenery. It was raining, and it was also a lot of driving, and I was sleeping through it. I really was sleeping through it, but I never got into an accident. I gotten home and never knew which exit I took and when, and only when I backed my car into the lot that I knew that I was home, and not remembering when did I take the exit. These things have already been conditioned into you, the things that you learn over and over and over. So to take away tonight from this missive, think about, you can write a list of the times when you find yourself doing things that turned out, either make 2 columns. One where things turn out to be kind of like the proverbial bag of poo just set on fire on your doorstep. And when things really turn out well, like, hey, that really was cool, I did that. Make a list. Doesn't have to be extensive, but just pick a few times in your life when things are really wrong, but you did something that you always do. And examine and compare them. How many more negative or destructive, self-destructive events have you faced where your habits got you there? I always do this. This happens every time. If you're saying it happens every time, that is a habit. You were part of that process. Your mind thought it. You were conditioned. You condition your mind to think that, and it's going to be your default. And the times that you did it, it's something that you practiced many times and it turned out well. It's the same concept. It's the same mechanism. But our minds really love to hang on to something that's familiar and that it does not want to change, because that's how the program runs. It runs until you die. And the whole premise of this podcast series is to avoid doing the things that rob us of joy, the opportunity to identify it, to seek it, and to grasp it and hang on to it. So try that exercise. Just read the 2 lists. Times where shit hit the fan, I'll put it in plain English, and times where you were like on the platform, like the Olympian, not getting on a horse for the first time, but on the number 1 spot when you knew you crushed it. And you want to get yourself back in that moment every day of your life. This episode of In the Pursuit of Joy is brought to you by Regent. the Bespoke Natural Fragrance Company, and all of its wonderful skin and body products. Not sold in stores, but available on our website. Just click on the link in our bio and check them out. These are handcrafted and small batch products, so when we run out, there will be a notice sent out for the next batch. So you have to keep an eye on them. When they run out, and they're good. If you have allergies, you have any issues with chemicals, you're sensitive, on your skin is sensitive, or your sinuses are sensitive to some scents, you shouldn't have any problems with these. These are all created natural, based on aromatherapy principles and natural components. Again, Regent, the Bespoke Natural Fragrance Company. And I hope this has been edifying for you as much as it has been for me. Now I've got myself thinking about riding a horsey into the water. So thank you for listening, and I wish you a good night.